Well, I did get an opportunity to visit with the owner on this mud wagon in the last week and a half or so. And he's got some decisions to make and going to talk with the family about which direction they want to go. So in the meantime, as I introduced last week, we're going to tackle these two 10-foot tall wheels. Now I do have the rack moved, and this time I have it kind of straddled around my table saw in this direction because I'm kind of anticipating that I'll probably build that wheel in this area here. So this wheel now is free from being under this rack, so now I can move it a little more freely and get some good measurements on it. Now this wheel has been worked on a number of times before. The most obvious place where it has been welded is right here. And it's kind of a cobble job. It actually looks like there was about 1.5 inch piece that was added in to this tire to make it a little wider. So I'm going to probably dress that off eventually. It's got kind of a stair step in it, kind of an unsightly thing. I don't know how I can deal with that, but just to run my Traveler around this wheel, that shouldn't be too impactive on getting the diameter that I need. Well, the hubs on these wheels are a little unique. There's actually 2 sets of spokes that come out from that hub, and they come to the tire in kind of a triangle position, similar to a bicycle style wheel with wire spokes. Well, on one side there's 12 spokes, the other side there's 12 spokes. So we have 24 spokes in all, but these old pictures show that they have sawn sections, 1 section for every 2 spokes. So I made a pattern for these fellow sections for this 10-foot wheel. It seems to fit the inside arch fairly well, until we get to where this weld is. When we get to the weld, we can see the irregularity in the tire. So there again, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to straighten that out or not. But as a general rule, my pattern seems to fit the arch of this tire pretty well. There are some slight variations. You can see we kind of pull away here a little bit, but not too unexpected on this big a tire. And right here is where there was a forge weld, probably when this tire was originally made. And we have a little hump there, which is kind of common to have a little knot where the forge weld is. And then kind of go into a flat spot right after that weld. And then immediately run right in to another forge weld right here, which seems to pull away from my pattern pretty drastically, almost 1/2 inch. But again, a pretty heavy knot where this was welded, again, sometime in its history. So short of those 3 spaces, kind of fits pretty close, clear around the tire. There's another irregularity there, kind of a flat spot. So the deal with these irregularities is going to present a challenge when we put this in a fire to expand it to shrink it onto the wheel. I can make the wheel round, but this tire isn't round for a couple different spots, 4 I think total. So we're going to have to address that challenge when we get into tire setting time. But right now I just want to get a circumference and find out what my true diameter is, which will eliminate all these irregularities in this tire. So every 1 revolution is 2 feet. I'm just going to count my revolutions.
13, 14, 15. So 15 revolutions plus 18.5 inches. So 15 revolutions, 2 feet for revolution, so I have 30 feet. 18, so I have another foot plus 6.5 inches, so my total circumference is 31 feet 6.5 inches. So if we have 31 feet in circumference times 12 to put this all into an inch configuration, plus another 6.5 inches, we have 378.5 inches in circumference. So we're going to divide that by pi, 3.14, have 120.5 inches in diameter. 120 is 10 feet, 120.5 inches. So if we did divide that out by 12, we have 10.05 inches in diameter. So it's just a strong 10 feet, but that's the ID diameter. So I'm going to add another 1.5 inches to allow for 3/4 of an inch iron on both sides. So we're going to be 10 feet, 1.5 inches in OD diameter. But the 10 feet ID is what I'll actually figure my wood diameters, so that'll give me my spoke lengths that I need. Now one thing I'll need to check is the second tire as well. Well, I went and measured the second tire, and it's 15 revolutions plus 17 inches. So it's 1.5 inches shorter. So we have 31 feet 5 inches as opposed to 31 feet 6.5 inches. Which I see is a good thing with this first tire that looks like it's had about 1.5 inches piece added into it. This will allow me to actually cut this gobbledygook out of here and bring this down and try to make the two tires the same and simultaneously allow me to clean up this mess.
So if I use the second tire for the measurement of my wood, I'll actually building on the wood a 10-foot wheel. By the time the tire is on, it'll be 10 feet, 1.5. So the shoulders on the hub that the spokes are going to butt up against is 9.5 inches. 120-inch wheel. Take away that 9.5, we have 110.5 inches. Then divide that in half for our two separate spokes. Our spokes are going to be 55.25 inches long. So for my fellow sections, they are inefficient as opposed to having steam bent, but 4 inches thick, 6 inches wide. There's no way these are going to be steam bent. So sawing them out, I'd like to find out just how wide a board I need to stack these, or do I have to saw these out individually? So if I kind of just run a quick test, give me enough room here for my bandsaw to work through. It looks like if I had a board that was 11 inches wide, I could stack 2 of these. Otherwise, I need a board that is about 6.5 inches wide to get just 1. If I can stack them, that's more efficient lumber-wise. Otherwise, I'll have to find lumber that is 6.5 inches deep. Now, a while back, you remember they sent some material over to build these wheels, and it was reclaimed salvage lumber, and it was full of splits and cracks and twisted, and it was unusable. So they continued to pursue different avenues to try to find not so much material for the spokes, that was easy to come by, but material for these 6-inch wide fellow sections. Well, they kept running into barriers where it just wasn't happening. There were those that said that they would attempt to kiln dry 6-inch thick material, but there was no guarantees, and most likely it was going to end up with splits and cracks anyway. That is generally the nature of kiln drying heavy lumber. Generally they don't go over 4 inches thick. So they ended up running into a brick wall and not coming up with anything. One of their pictures that they sent me shows clearly that their 6-inch wide fellies were 2 3-inch wide laminated together. And they also have cross bolts on each side of the spokes, very common to wheels. And just like the Borax wagon wheels that I built, they were 8 inches wide, so we laminated 2 4-inch and bolted them together. And that was correct historically on how those wagons were built. Well, this picture also indicates that that's how some of these wheels were built. So bottom line was they decided that they would go that direction, and I have enough material in 3-inch thick that I can provide all the material necessary for these felloe sections. Next, I just need to go and find out if I have any 11-inch wide material to do these felloe sections. I have plenty for the spokes. So I have a rack of material of 3-inch thick white ash, and they have agreed that that would be acceptable to them, and they'll be completely painted when they're done. And so this is the direction that they decided that we would go. The bottom rack is all 16 feet. The second rack I have mostly 14s. I have a few 13s mixed in here. And then the third rack here is also 14 footers, but a little narrower. Well, the bottom rack in 16 foot, the widest I have is 10.5 inches out of all these. So that's not going to work. But in this next rack up of 14 foot, I have 2 here that are wide enough. This one is 12 inches, and this one here is just shy of 11.5. This one here is a 13.2. This one here is 14. So I'm going to use these two to stack felloe sections and get a number of those. And then I'm going to just go through and pick out these that are closer to 6.5. Like this one here, this is 6 3/4. That's going to be the next most efficient. And down here in this 16-foot section, there's one there that's 6.5. So I'll try to pick out those that are going to be the most efficient for my spokes and my fellies. So my spokes need to be 55 1/4. I'll probably make them 55 1/2. Give me some room to square up those ends. If I take the circumference of the tire, remember I was at 377 inches on one, 378 on the other. If I figure that 377 and divide it out by 12 felloe sections, each fellow section needs to be about 31.5 inches. So I'm going to cut out some of these blanks at about 32 inches, give me a little room for trimming. So I want to do a quick double check, make sure everything is okay before I cut out a whole bunch of them. I have a little split here, but I'm going to be able to cut around that. I think that's going to work well. This one here is just a strong 11. So one section here laminated together will actually make one fellow section finished. So I'll finish cutting that board into different blanks.
Well, this is going to give me 4, 8, 9. From here, I'm going to have smaller 6.5 to 7-inch planks. Cut these out individually. So there's 9 fellow sections there. So this is enough for 12 fellow sections for one wheel. Now to sort through the rest of the pile, I may pull some lumber that's more ideal for spokes than it is for fellies. Well, this timber here, it's 10 1/4. It was too narrow for felly sections, but my spokes are going to be 3 by 3 by 55.5, so this will actually work well for spokes, anything with multiples of 3. Many of these aren't going to quite make it. I have a lot of 7s to 8, 8.5s, but this one will work well for spokes. So this 10 by 16 plank will make 9 spokes, 3 times 3. Well, as so oftentimes is the case, I have a live edge here that ruins this board for 3. I'll only get 2 out of this, so instead of 9, I'll get 8 out of that board. So if I have this figured right, this should be enough for one wheel. That should give me 12 fellow sections, and I have 3, 6, this one is 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 spokes, which is required for one wheel. So when I have a pile of lumber like I do on the rack and allows me to kind of sort through for different widths, trying to be efficient, it does help as opposed to just buying a unit of lumber and you get what you get, which is what I have. But I have the opportunity to kind of pick through it. So what I have right now is 225.5 board feet in this one wheel out of the timbers that I pulled off of my rack. So it ended up being that my 14-footers were the most efficient when I was using them for spokes at the 55.5 increment. Had the least amount of waste. My wide 11 and 12-inch boards were more efficient for the fellies. Well, I don't have any more 12-inch, so I'm going to have to use some of these 7s, 7.5s. Then I got up into the 8s, 8.5s, and my efficiency is actually going to go down a bit because I can't stack the fellies anymore, and the 7 to 8 is an inefficient number when I need 3-inch spokes. So my waste is actually going to go up on the second wheel. So if I had the same dimensions for the second wheel as I did on the first, my total usage would be up to about 450 board feet. But when we initially started calculating all this, I figured out that I would be probably closer to 500 board feet, because you always figure an overage. Oftentimes it's that 30% number, and we're going to be kind of in that area. We may be closer to 500 board feet total by the time we get both wheels all cut out. Well, I'll do some milling through this week and try to get these to where I can maybe glue some fellies together and plane down these spokes. We need to finish up at 2 7/8 apiece. Anyway, appreciate you following along. Thanks for watching.